All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about Anthony Smith, who was a very good friend of Michael Bisping, on paper at least, and until recently when he decided to completely and totally ghost Michael Bisping, which is honestly kind of rude. I mean, if we're being totally honest, it's very rude, okay? To just completely no call, no show one of your good friends like that, only for them to find out on YouTube what you were actually up to this whole time while they've been waiting for you to return to your podcast slot. Also, to do that to someone who is physically disabled. At this point, I don't know what to even say. I always knew Anthony Smith was delusional. I just didn't realize he was also evil. I mean, it's not even hard to stab a one-eyed man who can't move his neck in the back. But I guess that's what Anthony Smith had to do. Get back in the win column. In all seriousness, though, I do think Anthony Smith is the kind of guy who wants to be surrounded by yes men, and I think that has been made extremely clear over the last couple of years, and Michael Bisping is kind of the only guy who will actually push back on some of the unhinged things Anthony Smith kind of just spews out there about himself or about his fights or whatever it may be. We will get to that in just a little bit. However, take a look at this clip of Bisping addressing the whole situation on his podcast recently with Paul Felder.
Before we get into UFC Saudi Arabia, we're going to talk about that. We're going to break it down. We've got a few news stories as well. A lot of people were asking about Anthony Smith and what's happening with the podcast. So just real quick, I wish Anthony nothing but the best of luck. If people watch this show and you're a long-time believer, shall we say, then you know Anthony was great on the show. We had some amazing conversations and I really enjoyed them. But with his schedule, with fighting and working ESPN and stuff, he wasn't here some of the time, you know, and other times I would have to get you to fill in. And then, you know, he went through a tough time. He lost a friend and a coach, and then he lost his fight, and we were just waiting for him. We were leaving him to it because that would usually be the process. If he lost a fight, he would take a week or two off and stuff like that. And we just never heard from him, you know, and then obviously I would have you filling in. And then all of a sudden we just saw that he was doing his own podcast somewhere else. So that's it. That's the story. There's no big fallout. There's no drama. There's no beef. I wish him nothing but the best, and I truly mean that.
So that is kind of fucking crazy. I was joking about it in the beginning, partially, but Anthony Smith literally no-called, no-showed Michael Bisping, won't respond to text messages, and they had to find out he wasn't coming back, and had started his own podcast by finding him on YouTube. Okay, that's fucking nuts. They just stumbled across the On Paper podcast and thought, well, I guess that's why Anthony Smith isn't back yet, which means Anthony Smith hasn't even tried to reach out at all, dude, what the fuck? I've gone and watched Anthony Smith's podcast, and I've not heard him address it a single time. I also have no idea who the woman is that he does it with either, by the way. She kind of just sits there and agrees with him, which I guess is exactly what Anthony Smith wants. And maybe he doesn't want to get into it because they still need to be somewhat professional on ESPN. But Michael Bisping made it seem like there was zero drama whatsoever. So it shouldn't be so hard for Anthony Smith to just reach out and say, listen, dude, I want to do my own shit. I don't think Bisping would have even had a problem with it if he wanted to start his own podcast at all. I just don't understand why he straight up ghosted him. Like, that seems fucking insane to me. And he's getting lit up for it in the comment section too. People are saying he spat in Bisping's face and all sorts of shit like that. Okay, it's fucking nuts. I think the reason he did this is because Michael Bisping, like I said earlier, will actually push back on some of the insane shit Anthony Smith says, usually when he's making excuses for his performances, which he absolutely does basically every fucking time, and he did in this most recent one
straight away. Right, so listen, in the comment section, people are going to say this, so I'm going to say it to give you a chance to respond. Not that I'm trying to ambush you or anything, but people would say, well, hold on a minute, Dolidze also took it on even shorter notice.
If I'm not going to be in a position to win a title, then I need to start the exit plan, which doesn't mean I'm done right now, but that
sounds like it. It sounds. I wasn't going to say this, but just the fact that you just said right there, you know, I'm not saying I'm done and all the rest of it. That sounds like it.
And
so like and don't be offended when I say this. This is just something. When I hear people say that about the time away from the family, like I see fighters are like, oh, and I missed a birthday and this and that. I feel like saying, shut the up. Okay, so what? You missed a birthday. Do you know why you missed a birthday? It's because you're off trying to provide a great lifestyle. You're trying to build something. You're trying to build potentially generational wealth.
But I'm still trying to digest it.
I'm not trying to ambush you here, Anthony, and please don't make it seem, hope it doesn't feel like that, but you said there, take some fun ones. And when we text, you said, I've got to get back to having fun. I hate that. There's not fun ones. It shouldn't be fun.
They're all fun.
It's not about having fun. It's not a fun experience when you're on the floor and Roman Dolidze's pounding your face in.
Yeah, no.
Not a fun experience when you're going home and you're depressed and all the rest of it. No, nobody wants to do the grind. Nobody wants to.
I used to, though. I used to.
I know, and therein lies the problem, though, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm not trying to turn this into a whole Joe Rogan, Brendan Sharp type speech. You're saying this stuff, and like we're having a conversation, and I've got to be honest. You don't get the.
Okay, now I think there's going to be some people who maybe don't like the way Michael Bisping communicates with Anthony Smith here. Maybe they think he's being a little bit too straightforward, okay, a little bit too blunt. But in my opinion, this is just Michael Bisping being a good friend. I think he's just trying to hold Anthony Smith accountable and keep him honest. And this isn't the only time he's done it either, by the way. When Anthony Smith tried to kind of walk back what he said about Alex Pereira and pretend like he couldn't have been more complimentary, Bisping called him on it immediately and told him that he just told a lie.
I could not have been more complimentary of Alex Pereira. That's why I'm so confused. The only thing that I can even think that
all right, no. You could listen. I'm not saying you're a liar, but that's a lie. Right? You weren't insulting. You could have definitely, and me as well. We could have definitely been more complimentary. We said it wasn't the best performance. He said
he's talking. He's talking about specific.
All right, now that is one of my favorite clips of all time because of the dumbfounded look that Anthony Smith has on his face when Michael Bisping calls him on his shit immediately. Like, Anthony Smith was not expecting that at all, and I think he just expected he was going to get to say whatever he wanted to try to do some sort of damage control and pretend like he hadn't said anything that there was to be upset about. And maybe you think Alex Pereira is a little bit too sensitive, okay? Or at the very least when it comes to what Anthony Smith had to say about him. But what Bisping said is absolutely true. Him saying he could not have been more complimentary is a lie. Now, what I think is strange about this whole situation is that Anthony Smith's last fight against Dominic Reyes, Michael Bisping was actually saying how he wanted to see Anthony Smith fight again and saying things like, you know, that wasn't the real Anthony and he can't go out like that. He can't be remembered like that. He doesn't deserve that. The fans don't deserve that. Honestly, in my opinion, making excuses for Anthony Smith, okay, which I was kind of annoyed by because I don't understand at this point why you would want to see your friend take continued damage when he is very clearly done, okay? And I'm not even trying to be an asshole when I say that. The muscle definition of Anthony Smith over the last 5 years it's almost non-existent. It's just withered away over the last few years. He's very clearly lost a massive step and has only been able to beat Ryan Spann and Vitor Petrino in his last 8 fights. He's 2-6.
Back he's going to be, and I'll choose my words carefully, but I know the emotions of a fighter. I think he's going to be embarrassed when he watches that, and that's going to fuel him to want to come back and fight again. And I would like to see him fight again because I don't believe that the world deserves to remember him like that. That wasn't Anthony at his best. And again, I'll say this, and maybe I'll owe him an apology. I thought that when he took his shirt off at the prep point, I thought he doesn't look to be in shape, which I kind of get because he's had so many distractions. You know, you got the grieving process, then you got the funeral, then there's so many stages of grief that you go through when somebody passes away, somebody that close. The last thing you're thinking about is training twice a day, eating the right food, going for a massage, focusing on your recovery, meditation and all that type of stuff. No, you're like, okay, I'll show up, I'll do my job, I'll make weight, which he almost didn't, and then go and kick some ass. But for him, it was a mistake. Maybe it was therapeutic. to him in some ways, and hopefully we can get him on again soon and he can go through it all. But I'd like to see.
Okay, now I do think because Anthony Smith took his excuses such a massive step further than what Michael Bisping was willing to offer, this is maybe part of the reason why he does not want to go back on the show, because he was saying things like Dominic Reyes was trying to be in a martial arts contest, whereas I wanted to be in a fight, okay, and that nothing was happening. So he started to rush things intentionally because he just wanted to get hit in the face and all of these sorts of ridiculous things, which all of this made literally no sense, by the way, okay? He said this to both Dean Thomas and Ariel Helwani, who both of them just sat there, didn't push back even a little bit, even when he was acting like he wasn't trying to win the fight, making it seem as though he was getting punched on purpose.
Watching the fight happen, and I forgot who texted me, somebody from ESPN, one of the higher ups at ESPN was like, how's he doing? I said, he's surprisingly doing really well. Like, I didn't like watching you do that walkout. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I was like, he's surprisingly doing really well. And
I got impatient. Like, I just wanted something to fucking happen.
Yeah.
And I just forced it, you know?
Yeah.
I forced it.
I felt that too. Like, you were doing so well and then just got impatient.
Yeah, I just got impatient. Like, nothing was happening. Like, he wasn't engaging. He wasn't like, I don't know. Like, I seen everything, did a shot here or there, and then at some point where I was just like, fucking hit me or something. Like I need to fucking feel something. Like, give me something here. You know what I mean?
We all saw that. What was going through your head when that happened?
Okay, now this clip is fucking ridiculous for a number of reasons, okay? But least of which is some conflicting stories that he tells Dean Thomas and Ariel Helwani. We'll get to that in just a minute, but first I want to go over what he said about the fight itself, which I've done in another video, so I'll be brief, okay? But he says he was impatient and annoyed because Dominic Reyes was trying to have a contest, whereas he wanted to be in a fight, and he felt nothing was happening, so he rushed, and then that is when he started doing poorly. Now, if you take a look at the fight statistics, which we did in another video, Dominic Reyes landed 100 significant strikes more than Anthony Smith did. He more than doubled them up in the first round alone. You know, like, I have no idea how he's trying to act like Dominic Reyes wasn't doing something. That was just significant strikes, by the way. He landed over 150 more total strikes than Anthony Smith did. So the only person who was really not doing anything throughout the course of the fight was Anthony Smith. And there's, you know, you can't really see a clear moment where he gets impatient and just starts fighting like an idiot. But aside from that, of course, the moment that I want to talk about next is where he tells Dean Thomas, eventually I got annoyed, so I just said, like, hit me or something and do something. And then Dean Thomas goes on to say, yeah, we all saw that. Now, I cut it out here, but Dean Thomas even acknowledges, like, we saw you talking to him. What were you saying? And Anthony Smith says he wanted Dominic Reyes to hit him. Okay, now, when he goes on Ariel Helwani's show, he says a completely different version of events.
I don't know.
Did you really say to Dominic, you know, what he said in the post-fight, you know, hit me so I could...
What did he say?
You know, he said that you told him to hit him, or sorry, you told him to hit you so that you could feel something other than grief.
I don't remember saying that. I don't remember saying anything, though.
To him?
I'm not saying I didn't.
But you said it just before that. You said it in this chat.
Yeah, I've told him that before we even got in there.
Oh, so maybe he was just, okay, saying that. You told that to him on fight week?
Yeah.
Wow. Where were you guys?
Like, when the fight was going, like, I realized immediately he was in a mixed martial arts competition and I didn't want to be a part of.
Right.
Okay, that clip is fucking ridiculous for a few different reasons. Anthony Smith at first trying to pretend like he doesn't know what Ariel Helwani is talking about when he gets asked about it is, in my opinion, ridiculous, because that was one of the biggest stories coming out of that entire fight, okay, was that Anthony Smith was asking to be punched, because this is his new slogan, I guess, for this one at least. he was in a mixed martial arts contest that I didn't want to be a part of. I wanted to be in a fight, so I wanted to get hit in the head on paper. I was in a fight, he was in a contest on paper. And then he says, no, I don't remember saying that. As if you didn't tell everybody else before you spoke to Ariel Helwani that you said that exact thing. And it was almost like he remembered halfway through that he had been saying that. So then he had to quickly save himself and say, well, no, I said that to him during fight week. And I really like that Ariel Helwani asked a follow-up question. Now, I'm not a massive Ariel Helwani fan, but he asked him, where were you? And you can see a clear cut dodge from Anthony Smith, okay? He dodged around that. He dodged, duck, dip, dived, and dodged that question brutally. Just didn't answer it. And then went on some rant about a bunch of other shit, and Ariel never got an answer to it. But two completely different stories about when he said that to Dominic Reyes, because Dean Domas and everybody else said, well, we could see him talking to Dominic during the fight. And Anthony Smith was always like, well, yeah, I was telling him to hit me or whatever. It's just, it's really fucking weird to me, man. Really weird to me. So deep down, okay, I think that Anthony Smith knows this is bullshit, all of it, and that his excuse is just not gonna cut it when he goes and speaks to Michael Bisping. So either that's the reason he didn't want to come back to the podcast, or maybe he's been seeing comments, because I've seen these comments myself of the Believe You Me audience expressing that they like listening to Paul Felder better than Anthony Smith. Now, there's not a lot of comments like that. There's a lot of people that say they like them both and that it's cool to have them, you know, switch back and forth or whatever. If Anthony's busy for a fight, maybe it's a combination of those two things. Who knows? Again, it's not like he just wanted to start his own podcast, okay? He did it all by completely ghosting his longtime friend and even a business partner to some extent, a guy who, while he would call him on his bullshit, would also make sure to shower him with kind words and compliments, ask about his family, ask how he was feeling, all of these things. Bisping always made sure to do that, and you could always see when Anthony Smith would take a leave of absence for a fight, when he eventually came back, Michael Bisping was always very excited to catch up with him and speak with him and all the rest of it. So I think it's a little strange and maybe a little telling that Anthony Smith hasn't even so much as mentioned it on his podcast or even reached out to Michael Bisping, okay? That's the most fucked up part about it. I could understand maybe not doing it publicly because you don't want to make things awkward when you have to work at the, for ESPN. But it's going to be more awkward like this anyways. So please let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Why did Anthony Smith leave Michael Bisping's podcast? But not only that, why did he ghost the fuck out of him? Okay, like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you at the next video. Bye-bye.